How have you let it get to this? This is happening on your watch.
Well, we've accepted in full the recommendations on the independent pay review body.
Well, of course they have. The government fixes the budget and the pay review body has recommended a crappy real terms pay cut for consultants and little more than a crappy real terms pay cut for junior doctors.
The average for junior doctors is 8.8%.
Well, imagine the shock for the health secretary when he finds out inflation in July was almost 7% and food price inflation was almost 13%. So what he's offering junior doctors is little more than a crappy real terms pay cut. And he's offering consultants 6%, which actually is a crappy real terms pay cut. And that's on top of a massive 26% real terms pay cut suffered by junior doctors since 2008 and a staggering 35% real terms pay cut suffered by consultants. Why is none of this pointed out?
The Prime Minister has been very clear that is a fair and final settlement. We also need to be fair to other workers across the public sector in terms of how we bring inflation down. We need to be focused in terms of bringing inflation down as well. So we've got to get the balance right.
How are they still getting away with spouting this bollocks? This argument, constantly used by the government to justify inflicting crappy real terms pay cuts on NHS staff, is being rubbished over and over again by most expert economists. It's not rocket science. If a private sector company increases its wages, yes, that goes directly into the cost of making that product or service, and that might end up increasing the price. But that's not the case with public sector workers such as healthcare, which are free at the point of use. That means consumers don't pay for them directly, so they don't affect the inflation statistics.
And that's why today we're announcing the consultation on minimum service levels in hospitals.
Well, to be clear on this, if the NHS doctors who sacrificed so much to keep us safe during the pandemic won't accept the crappy real terms pay cut this government wants to impose on them, the government plans to strip them of their democratic right to strike, force them to work against their will, and allow them to be sacked if they refuse.
This is something that other countries get right. One looks at countries like France or Italy. They have a balance in terms of what they call their Sunday service, recognising people's right to strike.
But what the government wants is for nurses, doctors, firefighters, teachers, rail and border staff to be sacked if they refuse to comply with minimum service levels during industrial action. That is not the case in France and Italy. So what the government is planning is dramatically different.
Okay, and how will it work in detail when it comes to policing? Are you prepared to sack any doctor or consultant who goes on strike in defiance of that minimum level of service?
Obviously, these are decisions for employers locally. It's about having the enabling legislation.
It's an absolute disgrace. Our NHS doctors have always been there for us. Now let's be there for them.